Okay, setting up your meeting on YouTube Live. Those of you who are not aware, thank you for joining Language Mixer tonight or this morning, wherever you are. And this meeting is recorded and will be available on YouTube. So just fair warning. We're very, very excited to have our friend who's based in Boston, in Cambridge, Massachusetts, USA. So Marion Valentin, there's a French version of saying your name. I know you have French background. So Marion has, she's currently a candidate for Masters of Education at Harvard University. Her program is called Language and Literacy. It's very appropriate that she's with us today because she's going to share the benefits of learning a language and her insights about bilingualism. And we're really, really dying to hear some of her language learning tips as well. So thank you so much for the honor and joining us today, Marion. And I will pass the floor over to you right away. Once again, thank you everyone who joined us today, all the participants. We hope you will enjoy this session, and over to you. So help me greet Marion. I'm not sure if we can clap, but we're so excited.
Well, hi everyone. Yes, good evening, good morning. For me, it's good morning. It's 9:09 right now. I just woke up 30 minutes ago, so I will do my best to make this lively and interesting for you. Let me share my screen. Can everyone see this fine? Just always want to double check.
Perfect.
Okay. So yes, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. As Elias said, I'm in Boston. So thank you, Eli, for presenting me and asking me to talk today. It's an honor for me too, because it's the first time I'm a guest speaker. So that's very exciting. As you can see here on my little presentation, I'm going to talk about 5 different things today, or I decided to divide my presentation into 5 little sections, little topics. I should be talking for about 30 minutes, and along the way, I'll ask for your input. So don't hesitate to just maybe take notes and talk during the Q&A, or, we can figure out a system as we go. So here I purposely chose kind of a winding road just because learning in general is not a straight line from point A to point B. It's a journey, it's an adventure. So this is why I kind of use this background to just show you that you have steps and you have, places to go, but I'm sure all of you are already bilinguals, so you know what I'm talking about. So I'll just start with my journey, just talk a little bit about me before moving on to why you should learn a new language or why you should pursue your learning of languages. And then I'll talk a little bit about the bilingual brain. It's a topic I kind of came across a few weeks ago or a few months ago. So it's kind of new to me and just fascinating. So I will just talk a little bit about this with you. And then the moment everyone is waiting for, I will share a few tips, for learning languages. And then I call this your journey, but it's just to help you on your journey to learning languages and understanding how learning works. So it's just more TED Talks and videos you can watch to just learn more about everything we're going to talk about today. As you can see here, you have a little bubble. So I'm going to talk about this first. And every time we talk about something, you'll see the bubble move forward. So let me switch to the second slide. So here for my journey, I just selected a few random pictures. I unfortunately didn't have any pictures handy from my childhood just because at that time my parents had actual cameras taking actual pictures. So they're not on computers right now, but it's something we might think about in the future. So I will start with just living abroad, because I lived abroad for maybe my whole life. Even France was considered as a new country to me, because I moved there when I was 15 years old. Before this, I was born here in Cambridge from French parents, and it's interesting because they were language teachers at the time, so just coming full circle with me. After this, when I was just a kid, my brother was a baby, we all moved to Africa. We lived there for 12 years, and that's when we moved to France. So I moved to France when I started high school. So I did consider France as a new country as well, because I only visited during the summer. All this to say that languages were just everywhere. Ever since I was born, I had French parents. We were in an English-speaking country. So I just heard both languages right away from day one. When we moved to Africa, everyone was speaking English, and we were watching TV in English. Cartoon Network, for if you know, I would watch this all the time with my brother, or Disney Channel. So everything was in English. But I did attend a French school for my whole life. I was in the French education system. Here I picked those pictures just because. So this is a picture of Paris. There's a little French flag on top. You can't really see it, but I was on a trip to Paris with my mom at the time, so I picked this picture. I have two pictures here of Australia, where I was a teacher of French as a second language. And it was just an amazing experience. So half of the pictures here are from Australia. And this is from one of the first time I saw New York. So it was super exciting, crazy, hectic, overwhelming, everything. So basically that's me just living and working afterwards in the US, in Australia, and in France. And so just to end with this section, I'm just going to talk a little bit about my professional career. I started to teach English as a second language while I was a student, a full-time student in France. And I did this for a whole year with middle schoolers. And after that, I was studying for my master's in English when I moved to Kenyon College, Ohio. And then I switched it up because I became an assistant professor in French while studying in an Anglophone English country. So it was just interesting to see the shift here. So after that, I've been just teaching French as a second language for 4 years now. So I did this in Australia and in Boston, and I'm now back in school at Harvard Grad School of Education to get my master's in education to kind of legitimize my professional experience. So that's me. I'll stop talking about me now. The second part I wanted to tackle today is why learn a new language. So I will move on to the second part of this presentation. And I chose a French quote. I don't know if we have any French learners this morning or this evening, or maybe aspiring French learners, but I thought it's possible. So I just used this French quote. And what I love about this quote, it comes from a French poet. And he basically says that there is no complete human being let's change. You see, like, bilingual brain is starting to kick in right now. So you can't be complete as a human being as long as you did not travel a lot and change your way of thinking over and over again. And that's kind of what we're doing when we learn languages. We kind of shift, from one culture to the other. We shift from different kind of sounds and vibration to others. So it's just that's also why I use the word journey, just because it's just constant improvement and growth and changing. So this is why I picked this quote. But why learn a new language? right now we can see that English is becoming the language that is most used all around the world, be it on the internet for academic research or when you travel. It seems that English is used everywhere and by everyone almost. So why should we even bother learn another language if we master English? You know, we can also hear that some people say that learning a language can provide you with a completely new vision of the world, new vision of life. But this idea is now debated amongst neurolinguists, and it's being questioned. So if this statement isn't true anymore, I can once again ask, really, why should I bother learning another language? If I'm able to communicate in English like we're doing this morning with almost anyone across the globe, what's the point? What's the point of it all? And we can see that French was once the language that aristocrats would use, and people from higher spheres of society should speak French because it was elegant, it was classy, it was a marker of your higher social standards. But we can see that even though French is still very popular nowadays, it seems like English is replacing it as a posh or a star language. And I'm saying this just based on my own experience. So of course you can, challenge me on that if you don't think it's true. It's just that when I worked in Qatar, I worked there, I had an internship there at the International French School. And what I saw, and it was surprising, on a daily basis, I could hear students speak English, even though they were non-native speakers. They were mostly from the Middle East, or maybe they were French or from another part of the world. And yet they would exchange in English, use social media in English, talk in the hallways in English. You would also see maybe hear parents speak English. Or when I worked for a marketing firm, I thought I was going to hear Arabic a lot more than what I did. But actually on a daily basis, everyone around me was speaking English. And it was the same in Lebanon because I studied there for a semester. And I thought, yes, I'm going to Lebanon. I'm going to brush up my Arabic. I'm going to, learn about Lebanese culture, and it's going to be awesome. It's the main reason why I wanted to study there. And I arrived there in a French university in Beirut. And basically, no one used Arabic. And what I understood or what I heard from other people is just that if you speak English, it means that you're educated. Arabic is the language of the street. So really, if you use English, it means that you achieved higher standards. So just an interesting thought to ponder over. However, I'm obviously here today to tell you that the real question is, why shouldn't we learn new languages? Because, well, I'm guessing that if you're here today, you agree with me and you think that languages are important. But nowadays, 21st century, we have countless reasons to embark on a linguistic journey. Geography, time differences, they almost don't mean anything anymore. We can contact our loved ones from anywhere on the globe. And as we can see today, I'm in Boston, most of you are in Kazakhstan, maybe, other parts of the world. It's amazing. So we just have a lot of ways to connect with other people. And it's just we're even surrounded by people from different countries on a daily basis. I'm sure a lot of us work with people from different countries speaking different languages. When you're at school studying, even at a supermarket, I'm sure we're just constantly surrounded by people from different parts of the world. And more than that, we have access to apps and online tutoring and even online textbooks and drills. So we have no reason really why not to learn a language. So, though it might be, hard, overwhelming to kind of navigate through the sea of information. So, which is why I'm going to dedicate more time at the end of this presentation and give you useful tips and apps and website you can use. But first of all, to just continue with with this theme of learning a language, I'd like to talk about language and culture. So according to linguist and Columbia professor John McWhorter, I quote, "Learning a language enables you to participate in the culture of people who speak the language you are interested in." So what I understood from this quote is that, in other words, you will understand the culture that is different, from what you know by using this language that you're learning. And so I just wanted to use a concrete example here. When I arrived in Egypt in 2001, I was about 10 years old, and I was under the impression that everyone was angry. I heard loud voices, harsh sounds that were new to me and that my brain never had to process before. And so I just thought that Egyptian people were angry on a daily basis. I thought everyone was always angry. But afterwards, in time, I came to understand these new vibrations, these new sounds, and the shouts I could hear became words. The yelling on the streets became enthusiastic calls. So by getting used to them, to these new sounds, I just came to understand what I was hearing. So I was just putting sense on sounds, because sounds became words, and words then became just make sense. And so I was able, by understanding the language and then speaking the language eventually, I was able to construct my own understanding and love for the Arabic language and Egyptian culture, hence the importance of engaging in the language, because it just helps you, it opens the door to a different culture. And so by identifying these new sounds from a new language and reproducing them, we are actively participating in a new culture through the use of language, which is why learning language is just so amazing. However, when I was writing this presentation or thinking, about this presentation, I thought, to what extent is it possible to adopt a new language without forgetting about your own? Is it possible maybe to kind of punctually blend the two languages? Is it possible to have them parallel to each other in a way? So what I mean by this is, I'll just illustrate this with another concrete example. Often I wonder, how should I pronounce my name? How should I pronounce my name when I'm not in France? I'm sure a lot of people here maybe, bilingual, multilingual people present here were faced with kind of a similar maybe thought, because I'm guessing we all have maybe different names, different in the sense that they're not American or they're not English. So I'm sure it happened to all of us here. Oh, how should I pronounce my name? How should I introduce myself to people who do not speak my language, hence do not use the same sounds as I do? So, on the one hand, should I use what is to me the correct pronunciation, or should I adapt to the person who's in front of me? So my dilemma was often, okay, I don't want to sound snobbish and say my name in French, but I also don't want to sound snobbish in the sense that, oh, I will not say my name in French because people will not be able to say it anyway. So it's like, oh, how should I do it? And it seems maybe like futile, but it's so important. Your name is your identity. So how do you share this information across the borders of language? So in my case, I was often called Mary Ann, Marion, Miriam, Mariam, Marion. So, I just got used to it. So now I'm just Marion to American or English speakers, and then Marion when I'm in France or with French speakers. I kind of developed two names. So I don't know, maybe it's bonus for me, but that's, for now, I don't really have an answer to this question. And so apart from the cultural aspect of it all, learning a language is actually healthy for you. And by you, I mean your brain. Which brings us to the third part of this presentation about bilingual brains. So here I entitled this part, "The bilingual brain is a happy brain," and I will tell you why right now. So first off, as a language teacher, I will tell you that language ability is divided into two categories. You have the active parts of language that are speaking and writing, and the passive parts of language, listening and reading. All four categories are not always as balanced as each other, but they should all four of them are usually strong and quite balanced when you master a language. So as far as bilinguals go, research shows that there are three types of bilinguals. As you can see, I put the three names on the slide just so if you want to take notes or anything. But first of all, you have compound bilinguals, which usually refers to children growing up using two different languages. So let's take the example of children at an early stage of development moving to a new country. These children, have developed a vision of the world and a set of concepts through their native language. But thanks to the plasticity of their brains, it enables them to develop two linguistic codes at the same time. So in a sense, you can think about it as the two languages being parallel to each other and just growing together, basically, for a compound bilingual. On the other hand, we have what researchers called coordinate bilinguals, who are usually older learners, and they will develop the two different languages in two different contexts. So here, the languages are not parallel, they're separate from each other. For example, if you move to the US when you're a teenager, it's likely that you will use English every day at school, but you'll continue speaking your native language once you're at home with your family. So you can really see two distinct contexts with two distinct languages. The third and last type of bilingual is referred to as subordinate bilinguals. Hopefully they might find a better term for this, but they call this third group subordinate bilinguals. And that type of learners will learn a language by filtering it through their primary language. So here, you can think about it as Google Translate. Language A, one word, corresponds to one word in language B. So you have this filter. So languages are not completely separate. Maybe we can see them as parallel again. It's just three interesting concepts to think about. And even though I find it interesting to see what terms and definitions researchers came up with, I also believe they have their limits. I think that one term is sometimes not enough to encompass the whole linguistic identity of a person. For example, when I learned about it, I thought, oh, well, what kind of bilingual am I? And I feel like arguments can be made for both compound bilingual and coordinate bilingual, in the sense that I am a compound bilingual because I was born in the US from French parents, and then I grew up in English-speaking country when my native language was French. So I had both languages developing at the same time, so parallel to each other. So in a sense, I am a compound bilingual. But I also thought, maybe I was a coordinate bilingual when I moved to Egypt. I was a preteen I already had French and English right there. And then I had Arabic. I spoke and used Arabic on the streets or with my friends sometimes. But when I was at home, I would always speak French. So in that case, you can see the example of coordinate bilingual. So I was just interested, now that I talked about me, to see how you would define yourselves. So don't hesitate to maybe take notes or your thoughts, write your thoughts down, and maybe during the Q&A, we can just talk about this. How do you see yourself? Are you one of these bilinguals? Do you think we can have hybrid bilinguals? Do you think we can start being a coordinate bilingual and end up being a compound bilingual? Do you think there's such a thing? Anything, I would just be very interested to hear about your thoughts once I'm all done here. In any case, being bilingual is good for you. Research has shown that learning a language improves your cognitive function, such as attention and concentration. Bilinguals are also likely to get better at problem solving and multitasking. And these changes might derive from the effort and attention your brain needs to switch between the languages that are in your brain, the languages that you know, which in turn triggers more brain activity. However, I heard that a lot from my learners, especially adult learners. They say that the more you grow old, the more difficult or maybe impossible it is to learn a new language. So I would say it is true that children's brain plasticity in early stages of development help them with language acquisition. It is true. But on the other hand, research shows that there are no age limit when it comes to learning. Learning has no age limit. It's always possible. It might take more time for some people, just because when you're an adult, your hemispheres in the brain are more separate. So in the sense that they're not physically separate. Like, I'm not an expert on the brain, but I just want to say that when you're an adult, you will use the left side of your brain more easily when you learn a language. And the left side is more the practical side of your brain, organization skills. So when you learn a language being more pragmatic, it might take more time, but because kids, they don't discriminate between left and right side of the brain. Since they use both all the time, that's why it's easier for them to acquire the language. But it's not impossible to learn when you're an adult, and that's very important to stress. And yes, it might take more time when you're an adult, but it's not impossible to learn a new language when you grow older. We can also see that the brain workout, if I can say, that bilingual people get makes their brain healthier for several reasons. First of all, multilingual brains show a higher density or higher grade of gray matter. So once again, I'm not an expert on the brain, but gray matter is roughly the part of your brain that contains most of your brain's neurons. So if anyone has more information about this, please correct me and add stuff. So multilingual brains just show a higher density of gray matter, as well as more brain activity overall. And secondly, studies have shown that this brain workout that multilingual people get helps delay diseases such as dementia and even Alzheimer's by 4 to 5 years, which I think is just amazing. But I just wanted to share with you this whole, why the bilingual brain is a happy brain is just, I just think it's fascinating. But overall, if you look at this slide, your mental health can be improved by learning a language. When you learn a language when you're an adult, you'll have less emotional bias. And the brain workout I was talking about is what really makes your brain healthy or healthier. So that's it for the happy brain. And I am now, yes, going to talk about tips, apps, websites you can use, or just general tips for learning a language. So I think everyone is excited about this. So I'll just go here, move on to here. Okay. The first thing I want to tell you is make language learning fun. Make it fun. Because when it's fun and it's light and you don't have the stress of everyday life put in the mix, your brain will just be happy and just open to learning. So make it fun. So one of the example you can do, things you can do to make it fun, get a language partner. I don't know if you do this within Language Mixer group, but you can also do it on italki.com or speaky.com. You can just type in the language you're interested in and find someone to just talk to in this language. So I think it's just really cool. And if you're more of an app person, you have Hello Talk that you can use on your phone and just find people to talk to. So I'm guessing here with Hello Talk, it will be more writing than talking. If you're a little shy, maybe that's best. Also, why not talk or write to yourself? That can be fun. I don't know, you're walking, you're taking your daily walk, you've been cooped up inside all day, you're walking, you see a beautiful tree, you want to write a poem. I don't know, write a poem in Italian, in French, in Spanish, whatever. No one has to read it. It's just for you. You even make mistakes when you do it, the better. Because making mistakes is one of the ways to learn, so that's also important. Why not just record yourself? You have thoughts, everyday life thoughts. Oh, I should do my groceries. Write your grocery list in another language. Write quotes you like in another language. Put them on your wall. So just talk and write to yourself. It can be fun. You can also, why not, watch your favorite show in another language. It will be weird at first because, dubbing is not always very good, but it will make it fun. You know the characters, you know the plot line. You just switch up the language and you'll kind of hear words that you learn and put them in context. So why not do that? And also the last fun tip I have for you would be to personalize your flashcards. If you have flashcards, if you like them, make them your own. Don't just put a word on one side and the translation on the other side. It's not very fun. Plus, you won't really have a purpose for it, so you might not retain it as much as you'd like to. So what I mean by personalize your flashcards, maybe instead of a translation, draw an image of something that reminds you of the word that's on the other side. This can be fun, and it's your own way of, matching the word with an image. This can be fun. Also, it's linked with the next tip I have for you. Make it useful. So when you use your flashcards, make them useful. Learn your vocabulary in useful sentences. Sentence you might use when, all this craziness is over and you're able to travel again. Put the words in context. So for example, if you learn the word coffee, don't just say, oh, coffee, cafe, it's not really fun. Make it fun and useful. So maybe draw a picture of a mug and then you think, okay, so it's the word coffee. And then on the second part of your flashcard, you'll have, do you want to have a coffee with me? Or some kind of sentence or question that you might actually use when you're talking to someone. So, image, word and context, this can just be fun and useful to you. So when you make it useful, you will retain it faster or more easily because it makes sense to you, because you have a purpose behind your, technique or learning strategy. So this will be my tips to you for learning a language more efficiently. And I can share this with Alaya, and if you're interested, you can have all this information handy. And finally, I'm done talking and talking and talking. It's just the last part is just learn more. If you're interested in learning more about everything I talked about this morning, you have 3 TED Talks here who are super interesting, but an hour is not enough to talk about this. So here are 3 TED Talks. One about how language shapes the way you think, because some people are arguing that language doesn't really shape the way you think. So it's interesting to kind of see both sides. The second talk is why we struggle learning languages, which is true for everyone. And the third one I put in here is breaking the language barrier. So when this TED Talk was done in 2014, 2015, Tim Donner was just a senior in high school, and he already knew over 10 languages, I think about 20 languages, and he was asked to talk everywhere on TV, but he wanted to do this TED Talk to really talk about language, culture, history, and why all of this matters, and not just be on a TV show and just say 20 different slurs in different languages. So he wanted to just go deeper into the topic. So I would advise, if you're interested, go have a look. And there's so many TED Talks out there about, bilinguals and learning languages. I watched a lot of them to prep for this talk. So go for it, go crazy. It's just so interesting. And it's a never ending field. So yeah, I hope that's it for me, but I hope you just, thought all of this was interesting and helpful. I hope you learned a few things today. So please feel free to ask questions, or just if you have remarks about anything I said, or, if you want to talk about what bilingual you think you are, or if you think these terms are just nuts, anything, we can talk a little bit about all that.
Marion, thank you so much. I think I'm going to say this on behalf of all of our participants right now. This was incredible. Thank you so much for putting so much of your heart into it. And I want to encourage everyone, because Marion is an expert on language learning. You've already seen that. And I think everyone had amazing tips that I actually made quite a few notes, and we've been doing this for 5 years and I never heard for some of these tips. So amazing. Thank you so much. And all these recommendations were great as well. But I want to open it to all of our participants. I'm sure they're eager to ask you questions. I just want to encourage them a little bit more so that they could be more specific about maybe their struggles in language learning that they faced. Please, folks, use this opportunity. Marion is here. She can answer your questions, the ones we didn't get answered before. So the floor is yours. Everybody is on mute. Let me check if we're able to unmute you. Because, well,
it's easier. Yeah.
Yeah, you can unmute yourselves, guys. I think we're clear. We didn't restrict it. So I know Zika has a question. She's learning German right now, so I always put her on the spot. Any struggles, Zika? I know you're forgetting English or Russian or Kazakh or something because your brain is becoming German right now. Any insights that you want to share and get feedback from Marion, maybe?
Well, thank you, Marion, for all informations you gave us. To me, it's like I have an interesting experience with learning some languages and noticing how all these languages influence my pronunciation. Mm-hmm. So actually people get confused when they hear my some languages, so they cannot identify me from which country am I, and each language it somehow is changing, like it's forming my next language. For example, some Asian language may give me some, I don't know, a little bit softness, or I cannot really express myself precisely, and I'm learning my oh my god. The thing is, after a while, you get confused, like a little bit in your head, and yeah, this is just one thing what is happening to me. The other thing is, I grew up in Kazakhstan, so actually my native language is supposed to be Kazakh, but I grew up in such I'd say under such circumstances that Russian was my first language, and it became my native language, and somehow I felt that it is a little bit artificial way. Like I feel like actually Kazakh is my like mother tongue, should be, and I'm in Kazakhstan, but like Russian somehow was like in my head, and I'm at the same time Kazakh and not really Kazakh, and I'm struggling. This is the thing. Like for me, it's easier to start to learn some other languages like Japanese or some Korean or maybe French, but I'm so emotional about Kazakh language. I don't know. Like I have a fear to learn my own language, like to make it better. And also like maybe if I would speak Kazakh at the first place, probably my character would be a little bit different. So I'm not Russian, but I'm like a Russian, but also I'm not a Russian. You know, this feeling, yeah, it's a little bit complicated. And when you are in Almaty and you, like many people left this city, like my colleagues, my friends, and they are somewhere in the world, and we have another generations or some other people who came from other places, so you also in your own city a little bit like a stranger. This is just my thoughts. Maybe you would like to comment something. I will be very grateful for.
Marion, I can just quickly add that this is the struggle of everyone. The second part is the struggle of everyone in Kazakhstan, because we have 130 ethnicities here, but Kazakhs usually and other ethnicities speak Russian to each other, kind of like in America. You know, you don't, even if you have a Latino background or French background, you end up speaking English, right? So, just, but thank you. It's a complicated issue case.
For different reasons, I also felt like it was hard sometimes to define myself as a person, or I thought that my identity was blurred sometimes, because you often, when you meet someone, people will ask you, oh, where do you come from? And it can be such an easy question, but for ever, and now I'm better at it. I'm just like, oh, I'm from France. But for the longest time, I couldn't say I'm from France because, okay, I had French parents, I have the French nationality, but I also lived in Africa, and then I was in Egypt, and but I was born in Boston, and so am I American, am I French? Where do I come from? I don't know. So sometimes people would just say, where do you come from? And I would just freeze, and my brain would just go through all this information and just think, oh, where do I come from exactly? Yeah, that's actually a good question. And so obviously it's not for the same reasons as, people from Kazakhstan, obviously, because I think you have more, political and historical background to it too. But I definitely understand this feeling of, who am I? Where do I come from? What's really my native tongue? is it French? Is it English? It's just such a blur. And then you think, wow, how do I create my identity? How do I put all the pieces together to just make it whole? And I think teaching French, especially, has really helped me define myself and say, I'm half French, half American. It is true that I identify more as a French person for many reasons, but I still have both parts, you know, both cultures, both languages, both references inside of me. And so, yes, the struggle is real for a lot of us for different reasons, but this feeling is true for a lot of people, I think. But I think we should embrace it because it means that we just have a rich cultural background and we just have all these strengths that some people don't, by just traveling everywhere and learning a lot of languages and immersing ourselves in different cultures. I think we should, it is confusing sometimes and it can be frustrating, but I think that most of all, it's our biggest strength. But that's just my perception.
Yeah, thank you a lot.
So we just embrace who we are, mixed. And what about the first question? I think Zika was asking, well, I'm not sure she was asking, but she was reflecting on her changes, like pronunciation, and then something happens to the brain, which you actually partially described in when you were talking about Arab countries.
So true. I agree. It's a daily struggle for me. Sometimes I just talk to my friends or my boyfriend and I just stop and I think, is this an English word? Was it a French word? How did I pronounce this? Or I will pronounce something and it sounds very strange. And then my friend will just say, what? And it's just a simple word. For example, maybe you just didn't hear it, but I could feel it in my brain when I say geography. Sometimes I have to focus. Geography, because I would, like the tone will be different or the stress will be weird or just a random word. I don't have an example right now, but every day, it happens to me every day. And sometimes my parents will make fun of me because I'll switch to French and I'll say a word that's, it's not a French word, it's an English word. And they just look at me and say, can you repeat that for us? And then I just know I said something wrong, but they're always, lovingly making fun of it. But the struggle is real too with this. It's just, we have to learn every day and all the time. And that's, I'm sorry, I don't have more tips or insight, but I feel like it's just true for everyone when you learn a language. It's just, you have the intonation and stresses from your mother tongue that might go in there, but just think, oh, it's my bilingual brain. I have a powerful brain and sometimes it gets confused. That's all.
But I guess that process is what you described as the brain work, right? So that's how our brain actually keeps functioning, and we just by being aware. Got it. Okay, that's great.
I also have a question. Yeah, like I always wondered why are we losing interest in languages? For example, I noticed that some languages have strong interest during the life. For example, English. Yeah, you kind of develop kind of passion for English since I don't know, let's say junior school. Yeah, and when you're growing up and then in 20s, mid 20s, for example, you deliberately want to learn some other language and you start learning it and you like it maybe for first couple of years, but I don't know, something is changing maybe, and in these some years you start losing the interest in language. For example, English was fixed interest in the beginning, and your third language is that was Dutch for me, or German, either not fixed, like I'm losing interest. Why do you think is that?
Yes, that's a great question. And it happened to me over and over and over with Spanish and Arabic. And I think the main reason is when you lose purpose, you lose interest. So if you're, for example, you're preparing for this trip in Germany, you see brain fart, trip, whatever. But you're preparing for a trip in Germany, for example, and you think, ooh, I'm gonna learn German with my friend because we're both gonna travel there. And so it's exciting and it's new, and you're going to learn about all these new words and sentences. And then you travel, it's awesome, you use German, you feel like you're fluent, everything is great. And then you come back home, you open your textbook and you're just,
Okay.
I don't need to, I'll just watch Netflix. Who cares? It just, when you have a purpose behind your learning experience, it makes it so much more meaningful. And some people are incredible and they can just read a textbook and just, be fluent and just teach themselves 20 languages for no reasons. And this is absolutely amazing. But I think that for most people, purpose is really what drives you. And if you don't have it, then you can't really maintain an effort on the long term, because you just, either you're not going to use the language, so there's no point, or maybe, oh, everyone speaks English anyway, why do I need to do that? It's really purpose. And also, if you are in the country, if you use the language every day, it's meaningful to you. So it just makes sense. So to me, I just think it's mainly purpose, and just to make sense out of your learning experience. It just helps you go through with it. And another reason might be when it starts being difficult and really hard, because there's always this step that you have to power through to just really be fluent or something when you're not in the country. Because when you're in the country, you're tired and overwhelmed, but your brain acquires so much more than when you're just behind a screen or with your textbook. So I would say just mainly purpose. Purpose is really what will drive you. Your learning.
I also notice the people as well. For example, when you are surrounded by people who are native speakers, you really liking this, you maybe even admiring how they pronounce things, and you are wanting to speak the same way, and that's how excitement stays, maybe, yeah. But when you are changing your environment and sitting, let's say, at home as now in quarantine, no people, the language you're interested in, so it's that's why you're losing interest, right?
Exactly, and that's also why one of the first tips was find a language partner, because when you interact with someone, it's just the best way to learn, especially if this person is native. Because I would say also, don't worry too much about your pronunciation, because if you make mistakes, you're gonna get better. If you're perfect all the time and then you make a mistake, you'll just think like, oh my God, all this work for nothing, So make mistakes. I want every learners to make mistakes. It's the best way to learn, because you'll remember, oh, I said this word the other day, it meant cat, but really I meant fish. So you'll just remember, So just go for it. And I agree with you, to interact with people is just so important and so essential when you learn a language, because it makes it alive, and then you find your purpose again.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Marion. And guys, that's part of the reason you're part of Language Mixer. That first tip. Does anybody have other questions? If not, or not yet.
I have a question. Wait, so is it?
Perfect. Thank you. Please go for it.
Okay. So, Marion, thank you for your session. Well, as I understood, you give many languages. So how do you sort of devote your time to study each language? Maybe you devote more time to Arabic or Spanish, or I mean, how does it happen for you?
Yes, it's good that you asked this question so that I'm accountable for my actions. Because ever since quarantine started, I thought I will open this Arabic textbook and I'm gonna go through it and I'm gonna find a language buddy and I'm gonna do it. And then works and life comes in the way. But right now, no excuses. I was just lazy or working a lot. But usually what I will do is, for example, I would devote less time to a language I master, like English, for example. I will just read randomly, and I also use it every day. So I don't really take time to actively work on it. But for Arabic and Spanish, I know that I master Spanish better than Arabic. So when I get into this groove, and when I have my purpose in a way, I will start with maybe a 15-minute, on Duolingo for my Spanish, just to kind of brush up. It's not the best app if you want to be fluent, but it's a good app if you want to just go through your basics. So I just go through Duolingo in the morning for 15 or 20 minutes, depends on, motivation and schedule. But I would do this in the morning. And then I will just to kind of brush up my basics. And then what I like to do is listen to maybe a news flash or a little like 3-4 minute video that I know I'm not going to understand everything, but by seeing the images and kind of understanding the keywords, I'll just make sense of it all. And so it just helps me, because I know I like to hear and see things. So I'll just do this video right afterwards, or maybe read an article in a subject I'm interested in. So this is what I'm gonna do for Spanish, because I know I master it better. So I'll just go through maybe more difficult things. And with Arabic, for now, I'm still sticking to my textbook. But honestly, I just think I should find a language buddy, because it's just the best way to practice. But since I don't master it as well as I used to, I just usually go through my textbooks and little simple dialogues like, hello, how are you? My name is, just to kind of, have my little brain workout. And unfortunately, I really can't watch videos because I don't understand. I really don't understand enough anymore. But I would just go through basic dialogues, and then I would just talk to myself during the day. I'll be like, oh, hi, how are you? Oh, my name is Marion. What is your name? And I'll just create this small dialogue in my head just to see if I can remember it. So I will just devote more time to the language I mastered less, and I will use more complex resources for the language I master the most. But eventually you just want to have both at the same level. And even though you know that language B or C is more difficult for you, it's just, I think when we challenge ourselves, that's when we're going to learn more and more efficiently. So I would say challenge yourself every day, read an article, listen to a podcast, or just a music video sometimes. You can just think, oh, they've been saying this the whole time, I didn't know. So things like that, just put language in context would be my advice.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you, Marion. Anybody else? Janelle, I know you are coming up with a question right this moment. No, okay. I'm just teasing. Dauren is awfully quiet today. And we have Ganim. Hi, Dauren. You wanted to ask a question?
Yeah, I just want, hi everyone. I just want to comment on one thing that when you're learning, for instance, like Asian language like Japanese or Chinese, is really hard to differentiate. Like you said, you can find a partner to talk to, but when it comes to Asian language, they have like their characters, like kanji and so on. And it's really hard to read what they write on the chat. And they have like 3 or 4 levels of the polite language. So yeah, it's like really difficult to learn it on that way. And I learned Japanese as well, like Zika. And at some time I was like learning characters by writing it every day, like for 5 or 6 rows, one character. And then suddenly I don't know, maybe I become lazy or just tired of it, but I just stopped to do that. And you know, when now I reading something in Japanese or at least try to read, I'm struggling some word, and in your brain there comes the thought that you like, oh, wait a minute, I know this word or I know the meaning, but I can't read it. And you know, this kind of situations really make me upset.
Wow.
So how to be if you have some
How to be
advice.
less emotional and get less frustrated about language learning.
In Arabic, you have the same, each country, you know, they have their own dialect. So Egyptian will not be the same as Moroccan or Tunisian. And so yes, it's also very difficult, which is why I think on italki, or, you know, all these websites, when you look for a language partner, you can actually pick a dialect as well. So for example, with italki, I tried yesterday to see if it worked. I could pick Arabic, and then I had different dialects. And so I was able to choose maybe Egyptian because it's specific. And so they have this common Arabic language for television and newspapers, but then each country has their own dialect. So it is also very difficult. And writing is also different, you know, from right to left. And I think Japanese or Chinese, it's from up to down. So that's also different for us. And so our left hemisphere is like, this is not logical. This is hard. So that's also why when you're older, it gets a little bit more difficult just because you work with your left hemisphere a little more. But I wish you luck with your endeavor, because you're, yes, learning one of the most difficult language. So good luck to you.
Yeah, thank you very much.
So guys, unless you have
one more time. I noticed that there is a little bit difference between people who are like language learners and those who are just speaking one language, like their own life. The thing is, what I've noticed, people who never learn other languages, they use their memory. For example, for some telephone numbers, someone's birth date, or some details, other things. And when you're learning languages, you're trying to avoid, like you are making like a filter, you're forgetting stuff. And the other people, they just noticing the way more than you. And that is a little bit interesting, the way how we use our brain, probably, or something like that. Probably you will comment also something about it.
Yes, that's also something, a topic I came across in this past few days when I was kind of, you know, researching for this talk. And actually what I listened to, I'm trying to remember, was probably a TED Talk, because I went through a lot of those. But it said that when you're bilingual or multilingual, you get better at multitasking and filtering information that is of no need to you or lesser importance. So I would argue that it's not that you don't remember, or it's not that your memory is less efficient. It's just that your brain is more efficient in filtering information that you don't really need. So that's interesting to kind of see the contrast. And also picture a file cabinet. When you imagine you're an English native speaker or just French native speaker, you have one cabinet with one folder. That's it. Picture your brain. Well, I think you know 3, 4 languages, maybe more. So imagine you have 4 different cabinets. And then when you open, you have, okay, vocab, grammar, culture, pop references, music. So imagine, see all this. And so your brain has to filter and go through all this information all the time. And it's actually fascinating because when you're bilingual, both languages are like just pop out, or they're just activated in your brain constantly. So it's important for you not to get exhausted. So the brain just filters and think, okay, no, I will keep this grammar point, but I will not remember this phone number because it's fine. I don't need it. Do you know what I mean? So it's just, you just get better at filtering information that are of less or lesser importance to you. That's what's going on. Yeah.
Thank you, Marion. I think if you guys don't have any more questions, I just wanted to ask, maybe everyone can do a quick introduction, your name and the languages you're learning and or want to learn. So Edouard, maybe we can start with you.
Sure. Well, I always wanted to learn French. So, but for me, it was only just, it all goes down to Duolingo for now. But hopefully later I'll sort of devote more time and to study it more thoroughly and effectively. Well, thanks to these tips.
Zika?
Okay, my name is Zika, and I'm learning, or I'm busy with like 7 languages at the moment. There are like German, Japanese, Korean, English, French, and a little bit Chinese at the moment, and Kazakh. Kazakh is like, oh, it's the hardest language in the world. No, emotional, very emotional. I love it. And some like my dream is at least 8 languages. So I would like to add 1 more language to my brain. And I think that will be enough because I want to enjoy a little bit more, to go deeper, to read more literature in these languages. Like, it's just my dream to read literature in like at first like как сказать? Первый источник. Original, yeah. Original ones. Thank you.
Thank you, Zika. Janelle?
Hi everyone. Thank you, Marion, for your experience, for sharing your knowledge and experience. I believe I can consider myself bilingual because Kazakh and Russian were always like blending, and when environment that when I was growing up, English, I guess, is my 3rd language. I can speak conversational Spanish, German, and Bulgarian, but I was trying to learn Spanish more, like to get a higher level, but I just give up recently. But I think I should continue. Yeah, they're like kind of in the back of my mind, but I'm not improving them. I mostly use English and Kazakh and Russian in my everyday life, so I don't see any points of improving it right now, but I guess, yeah, that's my experience.
Thank you, Janelle. Aygirim?
Hi everyone again. So yeah, my name is Aidilin. I used to learn 5-6 languages before. I used to be interested in these 5-6 languages, but with the time, my brain has selected 2 or 3 languages to concentrate on, and it didn't want to spread, kind of on different languages. Yes, and I also consider myself bilingual. First, my language is Russian. I consider it, yes, as a native language, and second in English. Yes, I also have this problem growing up in Kazakhstan and not speaking the language, because I grew up in a Russian-speaking family, and all of my environment was either Russian or English. And I think that would be a great idea if I was, let's say, put in a Kazakh school in year 5, let's say, of school year 5, and that's how I would suck in all the Kazakh speaking environment, but it didn't happen. Yes, that's why yes, I'm not fluent still in Kazakh. I understand and can answer basic phrases, but I don't speak Kazakh, but I'm interested in it. Yes. What else? In Dutch and German, I was learning at university, and Dutch was learning to myself, and kind of also, I don't know, started losing interest. Maybe that's one more reason why this meeting is interesting for me. It's kind of digging into why is it happening. Like, yes, that's all. Thank you very much for your presentation, your tips, your experience. Yes.
And Miras?
Hello everyone, my name is Miraz, and now I'm learning my English language because I'm focusing for this language and it's necessary for my job. And the main aim of learning English is to speak fluently, like maybe, for example, like Alia. Yes. And what else? And I guess every day I train, read the book with the author, audio books, and read loudly English books. Yes, and sometimes listening to some podcasts in TED Talks. Yes, would help. And I have a question. Maybe I have some problem. Maybe I can speak maybe approximately maybe 15 minutes or 20 minutes, and after that, Marion, I have some barriers or challenges, and I don't know how to express my feelings or my thoughts. Yes, how to overcome this problem. Thank you.
Marion, would you like to address it now?
Yes, don't see it as a problem. It's a process. So for example, when I moved to Kenyan college in 2014, I was studying for my master's in English. So you would assume I was just 100% comfortable with the language. But to move from a learning experience to a live learning experience is exhausting. And I know that for the first 2 or 3 months, I was so tired. I wanted to call my parents every day to speak French because I couldn't use English anymore. I couldn't express what I felt. French was the only thing coming, by the end of the day, because it's exhausting to learn a language and to really immerse yourself and really use it for a long period of time. So view this as just, it's your process to becoming fluent. So don't see it as a problem, see it as a process. And maybe 2 weeks from now, you'll be able to speak for 25 minutes straight without being tired. And then a month from now, you'll be able to talk for 45 minutes straight. It's a process, and it's you're gonna grow every day, and sometimes you'll feel defeated and frustrated and think, I can't do this, it's so hard. When you have this feeling, embrace it. Stop speaking French, go back to your mother tongue, do things that just relaxes you, and it will just come back naturally. So yes, sometimes we have to power through when we are at work or studying, okay, but when you feel tired, it's just your brain signaling, okay, I've had enough today, we have to switch. So just embrace it, do something else. And both languages are active anyway, so it will just come back naturally, and the tiredness that you feel is completely normal. And I think we all experience it, no matter how fluent we are in a language, because when it's not your mother tongue, it requires more effort from you. And so sometimes, like, okay, now I feel quite comfortable, but maybe by the end of the day, I'll see maybe a friend or something, and I'll say, okay, can we switch to French now? If I can, I'll say, okay, can we switch to French now? Because I can't do it anymore. So it's completely normal. Embrace the feeling. It means that you're improving.
Thank you.
Thank you, Marion. Gani?
Yeah, of course. So I'm the youngest here. So I used to speak English. I dropped after 90 class because of I wanted to study in Germany. So that's why I began to learn German language. So, but that's why I have a big so problem need problem so ein challenge. It's not a problem to me to for example when I read a book or your speech, when I listen your speech, I have I have a problem with this. I'm not struggling with this, but because of I didn't practice it, I didn't practice to speak. So it's like a struggle. It's a for me it's a problem. So I feel I feel myself guilty that I dropped English to focus on one language. So, but I'm not confident about it. So, my native language is Kazakh and Russian. So in school we have to learn Turkish in Kazakh. In Kitel is a Kazakh Turkish high school. So yes, I begin to start to speak in English.
Great.
And I have a question. So how you learn the words? So I mean, do you use active recall or spaced repetition, kind of that techniques?
I like how you said that you don't speak English anymore, or you used to speak English, but you just, presented yourself in English for a few minutes. So, yes, active recall, spaced repetition. These are two very good techniques for you. So I was talking about the flashcards earlier.
Yeah, I was late, yeah.
Oh, it's okay. It could be a spaced repetition for you. So if you have your flashcard and you personalize them with, images, or put your word in context on your flashcard, then you can just, my mom actually taught me this trick because she's into neurosciences and things like that.
I want to, yeah. I it's my the future job. So I wanted to be a doctor, as a nurse, or yeah. So that's
Okay.
right.
So the trick would be to have your stack of flashcards, and then you just pick 10 or 15 randomly, and you have 3 boxes in front of you. The first box would be yes, the second one maybe, and the third one no. And so pick a card, you see the image or something that will make you remember what's on the other side of the card. If you get it, put it in the yes box. If you really have no clue, put it in the no box. If you recall, but you kind of maybe cheated a little bit, put it in the maybe box. And so once you have your cards, maybe you have 5 in the yes box, say, okay, I'm done with these cards for now. Pick up the maybe and the no cards, put it back in your stack, shuffle everything, and then 2 days later, go back to your cards and do the same process until your stack is just not there anymore and everything is in the yes box. So this is also a good tip that you can use with, spaced repetition. So do it every 2 days, and then 3 days, and then 4 days, and then eventually you will not need your flashcards anymore.
Yeah, it keep in mind. Yeah.
Wow. Thank you.
So.
And thank you guys for asking questions, because we learn a lot more in the process. Telling you, Marion is such a great resource. So keep asking, keep the questions coming. I don't know if Daurian and Ainur are connected, but if either of you are ready. Ainur?
Yes. Yes. Hi. This is my first time at Language Mixer at all. And yes. And Marion, thank you for your presentation. It's very nice. And I was learning at school French a little bit. So bonjour, ça va. And now I'm aiming to master my English language because I can speak, but sometimes I have some problems with translating into Russian, and it takes more time. So I think it's by a big problem. And also I started to learn Arabic, like not language, but how to say word, or not letters, how to read.
Yes.
And yes, and I just know I just know alphabet a little bit, and different signs of letters, at the end, at the beginning. And I also started to learn German while I was on quarantine, but I also put aside, and one day I will go back. And now I just want to learn improve my skills in English and grammar, etc. So that's all. And what I have observed that for me, it's easy to learn like Latin family languages, because I also tried learn Kazakh, but it's hard for me because of pronunciation. And also at university, I try to learn Turkish, and it's just like another family of like Turk family, and I think I have a tendency, maybe there is a tendency to learn or to master in Latin rather than in Turk family or something like this, maybe. So
it's actually, for example, if you learn French, it will help you when you learn Spanish, and it will in turn help you when you learn Italian, because roots that are similar. But Arabic and Spanish also have similar roots because history and conquest and all this. So a lot of languages are linked, which makes it sometimes easier to learn. But I just want to go back to what you said when you're learning the alphabet in Arabic. So my tip for you would be to learn the letters within a word, just because one letter will be written differently, whether it's at the beginning of the word, in the middle of the word, or by the end of it.
Yes, it's hard.
It's hard, but my tip would be to maybe learn, you have your maybe Aleph, so A, and then learn how to, position it within a word. So have 3 words per letters. One, the letters at the beginning, the second word, it will be in the middle, and the third word, it would be by the end of the word. I found it useful, so maybe it could help you too.
Okay, thank you.
Wow. Thank you, Marion. And the last up, I think it's Dauren. If you could, if you're available on camera, if not, that's okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I guess I'm bilingual too, because in my childhood, I used to play with kids who speaks Russian and Kazakhs, both of the languages. But my mother language, let's say, is Kazakh. Yeah. And I also speak, I guess, English and Japanese. But I mean, I used to learn Japanese, but now I don't learn it because I'm tired of it. And like I said, when I'm starting to read maybe some news or books or maybe manga, I mean the Japanese comics. Yeah, I tried. I mean, I'm reading it in the Japanese, but sometimes I don't understand the characters, and it's really hard to translate them because it's not like in the English. You can read everything, or any other language you can read it, but you can just put the word in the translator and translate it. But in Japanese, you need to find the character, then write in the program, and then get the reading, and then put it in the translator, and then get the translate of the word. And it's like the long process, and it's sometimes I get tired of it, and I'm just put it away. Yeah, and I wanted to learn Spanish and French, but it's in my future plans probably. And I have a Korean friend, so I want to learn Korean as well, because when I was there, I tried to speak with them in English, but nobody understand me, and like they continue to talking in Korean. So sometimes I want to learn that language too, and as well as Chinese, because the Chinese becoming like English, like in the future maybe the world will be speak English and Chinese, because China is growing up so fast. And about Kazakh language, I wanted to ask Zika, isn't Rani and you are siblings? Aren't you? I mean, and
Yep, you're right.
it's just interesting for me. I wonder how Hani speaks Kazakh and Zika do not. I mean, does not. And for the guys who wants to learn Kazakh, I can suggest like we can meet online and practice it if you want to, because I'm like kind of patriot of Kazakh, and it kind of will be
Save some Kazakhs like me.
yeah, and I'll be really glad to help. I mean, anyone who wants to learn the language, because I have a friend, a Japanese friend, and when I heard that he's speaking Kazakh, I was so grateful to him and so happy to hear it, because we have a problem with the language in our country. And once I remember some Korean guy came to Kazakhstan and we talked to him, and he said that he came to Kazakhstan to learn Kazakh and Kazakh tradition and so on. But then he suddenly faced the truth that everyone talks in Russian, and he was like, why everyone talking in Russian? Because we are in Kazakhstan. I came here to learn Kazakh, but then he changed his mind and started learning Russian at the end, I guess. And he said maybe next time if he will come again to Kazakhstan, he will learn Russian, and it bit offends me. Yeah. So yeah, I'm just saying that if you want to learn Kazakh, guys,
Okay.
do it. And don't put it away like said Marianne. It's your it's your purpose. If you have a purpose to learn it, then you do it, I guess. And thank you, Marianne, for all the tips and the advices you told us.
Where is she?
I think we lost her though.
Yeah, but I mean, doesn't matter. I just said one.
That's it.
Okay. But in the meantime, if you guys don't mind, maybe even without her, we can just say thank you to her. We'll record it and we'll send it to her.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we still have her parents here, actually. So
wow.
We will instead say thank you to her parents. So if you don't mind switching on the cameras, guys, just to make it look a better video. Miras, we cannot see you, but okay. We can see a little bit. So
I switch on the light in my room. Okay. One, please.
Okay, thank you so much for making it beautiful group.
Give me a sign when to record.
When you're ready. Okay, I'll do like this when I start.
Okay.
Or maybe when Miras switches on the light, we immediately go. So, oh, no, sorry. It's actually not, because Miras is here for the first time, as well as Ainur. So we'll explain what happened.
Yeah,
third time. But Ainur is here for the first time, I remembered. So after the prompt, I will just say, today we had blah, 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 and then you say thank you or thank you very much. I think we should thank her very much. So all of us will say thank you very much, Mariam. So Aigirim, if you're ready. So today at Language Mixer, we had a guest speaker, a wonderful Marion Valentin, who gave us a lot of language tips. And we want to say to her,
thank you.
Thank you very much. That was cool.
That was it. I'm so sorry that Marion was not able to hear it, but I know that
guys, maybe wave a little bit. Yeah, I'll make photo.
Oh, okay. Let's wave, guys.
All right. Yeah. 1, 2, 3. One more. Okay, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I don't know if Mr. Valentin, if you're here, if you have any feedback. Unfortunately, we lost connection with Marianne. but we want to say thank you for your daughter.
You're most welcome. It was a pleasure to listen to you guys, and we enjoy the time we have spent with you. Thank you very much. But we have no feedback about Marion. We don't know why. It's probably internet that failed.
Yeah, we will send her the video with our gratitude to her. But it was actually very interesting to hear her background, because she grew up in the US because of you and because of all these experiences that you created for her. So thank you for being such wonderful parents from all of us, also from Kazakhstan.
If I may say, it was our pleasure.
So that concludes our session for today. Guys, thank you so much for participating. Hope you enjoyed it. We will see you next week. In fact, we have some of our future teachers here. Dauren is going to be teaching us Japanese, and at some point, Janelle will also be hopefully Bulgarian, but we're still waiting for her to decide. And
Bulgarian is more rare, I guess.
That would be wonderful, actually. And then next week we're having Spanish with Aurora, then English, British English with Karina, Japanese at the end of the month with Dauren. And stay tuned. We already have September sessions getting ready, so hopefully you're going to be there with us. Okay.
Maybe also Kazakh with Dauren in the future.
Yeah, Kazakh, I want to discuss it with him. I want to find out how good he is in teaching Kazakh. But thank you, Agirim. And I want to thank Aituar, Team Language Mixer, for the technical support. And Agirim, thank you so much. All the stories you can see on our social media pages, Agirim was making them. So thank you for the team effort. There's always somebody working behind the scenes very actively. So, and thanks to all of you for asking amazing questions to Marion. You were such a great audience as well. And once again, big thank you to Marion's parents who are here with us.
Oh, yeah?
Is she frozen? Okay.
First Marion, then Alia.
Yes, we are still here.
Here. But we are finishing already, guys. Yeah.
So yeah, it's the end of the session. So I guess see you next week. Oh, Alia is here. Alia.
Oh yeah. Can I ask you a question?
Sure, Janet.
So I have a friend. She's from Bulgaria. I mean, she's a native speaker. What if I ask her?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes. Thank you. Well, you decide who's going to be the teacher of the session, but yes.
Yeah, I mean, I can help her with
sounds, right?
It's whatever's comfortable. I mean, you could also invite her like Kamshad does when she's inviting Etienne or when they both do the session. It's up to you. However you feel comfortable, you could both be the teachers, the leads in Bulgarian. We want to learn Bulgarian. Yay.
Thank you. Okay, I'll talk to her.
Yeah. I'm sorry you lost me there before. It was such a pity. Oh, I see everybody's faces for the first time because everybody was switched off. So yeah, this concludes the meeting. I suppose we don't have, we went far beyond the time, and we want to make sure that Zoom fatigue is not an issue for all of us. That is why we changed a little bit the format. But in the future, we will still have a little bit of a guest speaking, participant speakers exercise that Gideon will be hosting. So stay tuned. But otherwise, have a great evening. Hopefully you're all having had dinner or will have dinner right now. It was good to see everyone.
Okay, goodbye, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, Miraz.